Hello and welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Kan, author of the #1 best-selling book, Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And if you are new to my tribe, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button and perhaps the notification bells. Every time we do a new video on YouTube, you will be notified. And of course, if you're on the audio, I'd love for you to come as well to our community. You can go to KarenKan.com/community, and that is the light medicine community on Circle, where we have monthly mini healings and lots of freebie offerings for you and lots of exciting things coming down the pipes. We were just talking with our beautiful guest, Kim Parker. We will just interview in just a moment about we were talking about social media and how neither of us are terribly enthused with social media, but I have to say I really like my Circle community. So today's topic is remembering your divinity. And I'm really excited to have my friend and colleague Kim Parker with me today. Let me just give a little intro and then we'll kind of jump in. So, Kim is a passionate health advocate and health coach, quantum healer, and ambassador of the light. She specializes in helping her clients cleanse and clear both physically and energetically, including their environments. Oh, I love doing that too. I love that kind of work. Deeply committed to empowering her clients, she helps facilitate the activation and amplification of their own light and innate self-healing ability, guiding them in uncovering health truths and helping them achieve profound transformations, both physically and energetically. Kim draws on her wisdom and knowledge gained on her own healing journey, her experience with loved ones, clients, and her approach is holistic and combines decades of extensive research and experience, deep spiritual learnings, insights, and personal wisdom. And she offers unique health solutions supported by science and spirit. Her journey through adversity has cultivated empathy, compassion, and understanding for those navigating chronic illness and relentlessly seeking alternative paths to wellness. She loves shining light in places that reveal solutions, hope, new ideas, love, and ultimately healing. So, Kim, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. It's so divine to be here.
Yes. Well, we have been together in the Activator Healer Coach program for quite some time, and that's how I got to know you. And I have to say that, your insights, your questions, and just your compassion is just so expansive. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share you with
Oh,
my
thank you.
community, because I just love your energy. And we have this opportunity to spend more time, together, where we can learn more about you and what you do. So I'd love for you to jump in and just share with us this journey, because obviously the way you are right now is because of this journey that you've been going through.
Very much so. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful opportunity to be here. And it was an absolute gift meeting you a few years ago. So I've really enjoyed my journey alongside you too. Yes, it has been a journey, an extraordinary one. And I would say that, looking back, I now understand how lifetimes have impacted this current life. Um, I've been a healer apparently in all my lifetimes that I've lived, or most of them, and I have been an incessant truth seeker in them as well, and have been persecuted as a result. So there's a huge amount of that coming forward into this lifetime of mine this time around. And I would say, though, that I became consciously aware of my awakening, if I could even call it that, started when I was around 19 years old and I met my husband, Michael. And he had just lost his brother to suicide 6 months prior. And that had activated a chronic dermatitis for him and severe eczema. And my journey with him, just trying to help him heal from that and understand what was going on, was where a lot of it all started. And unfortunately, in South Africa at that time, the doctors didn't even know, well, most GPs wouldn't even have thought about celiac disease. There was no link that when the practitioners that we were visiting, there was no link between your skin and your digestive system, that we know today. So he really struggled. And eventually it got to a point where his skin used to burn. It felt like it was on fire. So we would have nights where he would want to punch his fist through a wall. He would be pacing like a caged lion, really just scraping his arms. He had moles sort of scraped, really significant impact on him and his emotional well-being. So first physical and then emotional. He was finally diagnosed with celiac disease in 2005, and I met him in 1990. So it was 15 years of real struggle. And I learned a lot during that process, and I learned a lot about lifestyle and health and well-being and food and how it is your medicine, and how unfortunately the medical profession could not facilitate or support him with that lifestyle issue. There was no recommendation to anything around diet or anything. So that's where my journey began. And I was very driven to help him. And so I did extensive research. And we got there. He no longer suffers from this condition. He is really fine, doesn't struggle with it anymore. It is there. And if he does anything that he shouldn't, or he eats foods that he shouldn't, it gets activated again. But definitely that was the beginning of my journey. And so I learned a lot about how food can heal you and how food can harm you. And it was very much the physical aspect. So the initial part of my journey is really much around the physical body. I learned how when you have a physical issue, your body is screaming at you. And it's how you unpick that and layer it, pull the layers back and get to the real message. But what I also learned is that sometimes when people are so physically unwell, dealing with the immediate physical issue really helps them then cope with the emotional issues that they have to look at. It's so much of an issue for them, they can't think straight, they just cannot function. So definitely the physical becomes a real priority. I wasn't equipped to help him with the energetic at that stage. And so for me, it was the physical. He stopped eating gluten and dairy, and his skin healed, except stress was a huge impact. So every time he got stressed, it would flare up again. And we immigrated from South Africa to Australia in 2009. And I am an accountant by profession, no longer fully practicing. But when I came to Australia, I did not want to work in that field full time. So I started looking around for options, and I found an opportunity to get involved in a company called USANA Health Sciences, and they have the most wonderful nutrition, and introduced Michael to that product. And as soon as he went onto that product, his skin seemed to completely, there was no issues. So my message here is that I had got him to a point where there's so much that makes up an issue. There's so many different factors that impact somebody's health, and that it's trial and error that you go through and you eliminate, but not one thing is going to heal somebody. And so by the time we got to Australia and I introduced those supplements to him, that seemed to be the missing piece that helped him a lot. And he's never really looked back since then. And we've just then continued to go on our journey and continue to add healing protocols. So that was the very beginning of my journey. And I've just done extensive research. And so I'm really passionate, Dr. Karen, about helping people who really suffer. My husband suffered like chronically for years. And I know what it feels like to live alongside somebody who you love, who you actually cannot help. You just feel so helpless. So the constant striving and the constant drive for me to find solutions. So I really have empathy and compassion for people who have loved ones, let alone who have that issue themselves. And there is hope, and there's always an answer. And thank goodness for my truth-seeking nature, because I was able to move a lot through the hype and the misrepresentation in both the mainstream and the alternative medicine to actually get to the truth of some health solutions. And so, yeah, it's been a very extraordinary journey. And then, of course, I have had my own journey, which is another story.
Now, how did you connect the dots from the physical, which you talked about, hey, when sometimes people are really suffering, we gotta work on the physical level, make them
Uh-huh.
more comfortable so they would even have the bandwidth or attention to delve into the seeming luxury of time to go into spiritual or more energetic. So how did you bridge that within either your experience or Michael's?
Okay. So Michael's was, as soon as he got stressed, I could see the physical flare up in his body. Now, that is an emotional response. So that was when I first saw it. For myself, I I have a journey around lymphatic stagnation and lymphatic issues. I have a breast health journey. And for me, I could link mine to fear. Um, and that was as a result of getting to a point where there was nothing that I knew I was running out of options physically to look at. And I I met somebody who helped me for years heal myself energetically, and through that process dissolved the fear, and I could see the healing in myself. And the band, when you hold fear, you don't have much bandwidth for anything else. So I found that as I helped and healed the fear and shifted it and released it, I had so much more space for the light to come in. And as the light came in, the light-filled solutions came in, and more truth and more clarity and more coherence. And then, of course, more high frequency experiences and opportunities and people crossed my path, which then further helped me. So it took a while. It took me hitting a breaking point where the fear was overriding my ability to function. And when I went and had the healings and went to, the people that I saw, apparently it was really deep-seated fear. And it's fear carried from prior lifetimes.
Makes
Because
sense.
sometimes you can't actually logically figure out, why would I have so much fear? It was a lot around past lifetimes and what I've experienced and been exposed to in my previous lifetimes that I was bringing through into this lifetime. And fear is an incredibly powerful thing. And what I did find is, as that fear shifted, I was able to embody more love,
Mm.
even more love. And it's such a high frequency emotion. So that is healing in itself. So just releasing the fear is healing. And then having the capacity to embody more love is next level.
Mm. Now,
Yes.
have
So
you, in your experience, are you saying that it was necessary to release the fear first before you can embody more love, or does love heal the fear, or both?
I think, oh no, I think it's definitely, it happens simultaneously. I don't think you necessarily have to release it to have that love come in necessarily. But in my experience, I was more open to it emotionally. I had more bandwidth to acknowledge and really deeply appreciate what it meant to embody love.
Mm.
Because it's all very well talking about it, and yes, feeling there's a the it's a very different, it's a more deeper, it's a commitment for me, that embodiment of love. And when I was able to access that, I had to have that fear leave. And what's interesting, I'm a South African. I've spent my life, I was born in Paris, but I grew up in South Africa. And having that fear from past lifetimes coupled with living in a country that was going through so much turmoil. So by the time I arrived in Australia, I was holding a huge amount of fear, like
Mm.
just for my own protection, the protection of my kids, um, you know, that kind of experience that I had living in that beautiful country. But so there was a lot. And
Wow.
when there's that, you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
And I think you have less capacity to hold it. So I don't think it's mutually exclusive, but I do think that it can impact. your ability and your capacity to hold it, or the amount that you can, embody.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, when we talk about that, accessing our divinity, you
Yes,
talked, earlier about cleansing people.
yes,
So, how do
yes.
you help people cleanse themselves to access their divinity as the
Okay.
result of that?
Yeah. So this is what I have found in my experience. Okay. I think just as I moved through my journey, I noticed that when I would see health practitioners, they would talk a lot about the food you eat and your nourishment, etc. Very few people spoke to me in detail about cleansing your body. And what I have found is that I only started healing when I properly started cleansing. So I managed to get, and I think I might be wrong, but my experience, most people have an idea of what to eat and what not to eat. And they have more of an idea about how to nourish themselves and what foods to eat, as a result of education, as we've, as we've just as we've grown in terms of our knowledge around that, right? But very few people at the time really showed me or taught me how to cleanse. And when I really managed to get into that, it opened up. It was like the cork bottle just bursting open, and this amazing amount of releasing and shedding, and again creating space for the light to come in, from a physical aspect, from an emotional aspect, and getting rid of that stagnation. And my lymphatic journey and my lymphatic stagnation was a huge part in my learnings around that. And I found when I got to more root causes of what was causing my stagnation, and I actually addressed them, there was a major shift in my physical health, absolutely major. And I'd been eating organic, I'd been drinking pure water, clean water. I was doing all sorts of things, using, non-toxic skincare, hair care, makeup, the works. So that was, I thought, pretty much okay. But as soon as I really focused on the cleansing and released the toxic load within my body, because when you eat well, you don't necessarily, are not able to, it's not the same thing. There's a definite, yes, you're eating clean foods and you're putting less toxins into your body, but you're not shifting stagnant toxic load in your body. And that was a real game changer for me. So I really focus on helping people understand the cleanse aspect. And in cleansing, your third eye cleanses your ability to connect intuitively. I found a huge change in my intuition, my ability to intuit stuff. My connection to myself became more clear. Everything was more clear. Just more wisdom dropped through. It was like there was space for it, and there was no covering or screen anymore, and there was just this beautiful clarity that came through. And that's why I really love, I remember my whole physical journey, and then coupled with my emotional journey and my energetic journey, has really brought me back to remembering my divinity. I've been able to really move into understanding who I really am, why I am here, what my gifts are. And of course, they're always unfolding because our life is ongoing. But that connection to my inner being, and learning that I have an innate self-healing ability. Everybody has that, and it's deeply encoded within us. And it's that activation that is so important of that. And so I've just found with my clients that the cleansing and the healing of the physical body, and it's because I work with chronically ill people. So my client is typically chronically ill and has been for years, and has tried everything and hasn't been able to get to solutions. So that's who my clientele base has been. And of course, that was my journey with my husband. So that's no surprise, right? So by the time they get to me or they find me, they have struggled with cleansing. They're carrying a lot of all sorts of things that are not serving them. And so in flushing that all out, there's a real beautiful healing and activation that takes place.
Mm. Well, it's
Yeah.
really interesting about the whole cleansing, because in America, it's become all the rage to talk about detoxifying, right? And most of the time they're talking about physical detoxification and various different fasts and juice things and herbs and supplements and all this kind of stuff. So it's become more popular, I guess, in the last, I mean, it's always been there, but it's become more like mainstream over the last little bit. Are there any, like, aside from it completely missing the energetic, spiritual, and mental, emotional aspects of cleansing, is there any dark sides that you've seen in your journey when people decide to, physically cleanse?
Yes, it's a very, I have seen it. In fact, it happened to myself. And that whole thing that I spoke to you earlier about, you have mainstream, you have alternative medicine, and then you have the truth. And just as much as there are issues that I have found in the mainstream, there are issues in alternative. There's so many trends and fads that I don't believe serve people from a health perspective. And I've had personal experience in signing up to a couple of those and then having serious, serious things that happen as a result of that. And I think what the thing about cleansing is each of us are unique, just like we have our own fingerprint. Our livers are all unique. Our immune system is unique. Our level of toxins in our body is unique. Our level of emotional load and trauma is unique. And so when you go and apply a standard cleanse and everybody apply, it's not one shoe fits all. So it's
Mm.
very important to bear that in mind, and to be really gentle with yourself. The other thing is that the juice cleansers can be quite potent, and I ended up being pre-diabetic as a result of doing a juice cleanse for 2 weeks only. I only did it for 2 weeks, and I was juices, and I became pre-diabetic because the content and the sugar of the juices hit my bloodstream, and I'm very sensitive to that. So I had a huge journey around that and had to bring myself back from being pre-diabetic. And so definitely worked out that there are certain ways you do cleanses. And so to answer your question, Dr. Karen, yes, there is a dark side to cleansing, and people need to be very mindful of that. I think one of my biggest messages is that our bodies are the most beautiful vehicles, and they house our soul. And I really love helping people fall in love with their bodies. Because when you fall in love with your body, you treat it in a very gentle way, and you just are more mindful about what you put in your body. You become more connected to it in a way that is really loving. And then take it one step further. I really fell in love with my liver. My liver was really struggling, and that's what led to a large part of my lymphatic system being an issue. And so I had to really do a lot of work and healing with my liver. And at times it was a real pain and frustrating, but I really developed a love for my liver to the point where anything that I ingest or anything that I choose to put within my system, I always say to myself, is this good for my liver or isn't it? And if it isn't, and it's a treat or whatever, I will bless it and change its frequency, just so that's where I'm at in terms of protecting my body. So for me, I have found that helping people really fall in love with their bodies helps them make decisions around how they cleanse, what lifestyle changes they want to make, how they will sustain it, how they will commit to them. But yes, cleansing is very, very, it's very important to I actually work with my kinesiologist when I do a cleanse, and I did muscle testing and all sorts of things to help what is this good for my liver? Where am I at? What is, so
I love that.
yeah, I bring in a kinesiologist with my clients. When I suggest things, we meet with a kinesiologist so that he can muscle test what's unique for them and if their body can cope with what I'm suggesting.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's kind of some of the work that I do is very similar in that I had a couple of cases where in this particular case it was not a client or a patient of mine, it was actually a friend. So a friend um had made a new spiritual commitment to do whatever it took, to advance her evolution of spirit, and so soon after that she got a divorce. Then soon after that she decided to go on this cleanse. So she went, I won't say the name of the place, it's pretty famous in America. She went to this place and it was like a lot of juicing and yoga and meditation, and I mean kind of like the usual around here. So she went there, and within a few days she broke out in horrible, horrible like rash. Like it looked like she was a burn victim. Like I
Oh,
still
wow.
remember vividly some of the pictures that
Oh,
she
wow.
had. It was intense, and she was feeling really weak. Um, and so they have a doctor on staff at these places, or a practitioner on staff. And so they saw her and she's like, I'm doing the protocols, I'm doing the juicing. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel very good. And they kind of took one look at her and said, you need to go to the ER. So she went to the ER and they're like, we don't know what to do with it.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Oh
poor
my
lady.
goodness. And long story short, I mean, she didn't ask me for advice because she was like, well, I didn't want to encroach on, our relationship and that kind of thing. And it was related spiritually to what she had intended. But long story short, her adrenals could not take the cleanse. She didn't have enough chi and energy to be able to cleanse to that degree and using this juice only approach. So I think her adrenals bottomed out, and then her detox organs weren't strong enough, really, didn't have enough energy to do the cleanse. So the skin was like, well, liver's out of commission, kidneys so, lungs not that great. So I'll do the work, you know? Lungs and
Yes.
lymphatic were like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do it, right? And she struggled for this for a while. I mean, ended up on cortisone. And I mean, she was if you will, you talked about being pre-diabetic. She was pre-Addison's
Oh,
disease.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying it's just from the cleanse, but I'm just saying it really like bottomed her out. And I was like, really was warned, it was like, whoa, I need to be careful, about what I recommend. And now what we do is we just check, right? We just test all the organs, all
Yeah.
the detox
Yeah.
organs, the chi
Yeah.
levels, do all that. Cause I do have, patients, clients who say, oh, I want to do this herbal cleanse. I want to do that. And I'm like, hang on, let's check. Let's
Yeah.
check that everybody's happy, like, chi, or the organs are energetically happy. And then if that's for the highest degree, it's good to do this cleanse. So yeah, thanks for sharing your
No, you're
story
welcome.
about the
You're welcome.
cleanse. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
get why it would help with connecting with the divinity, because we also hear about all the gunk
Yeah.
that is blocking our pineal, right?
100%.
The
And this
bromine
third
and
eye.
yeah, the
Yeah.
third eye and purposefully possibly fluoride in our water,
Yes.
right? Can you tell us a little bit about the third eye and perhaps, how some of these things might prevent us from connecting to our intuition and our divinity?
Well, yes. I feel that they blind you. I feel that certain food groups, certain chemicals that are in our water, in our makeup, in our body products, in our cleaning products, they really do block you and block your ability to access your inner guidance and cloud your third eye. And I really found myself living that. As I cleansed, I just, so much more came through for me, so much more
Mhm.
coherence, so much more clarity, so much more insights, and having access to wisdom and just really tuning into my inner being, and then feeling safe to use that as my guidance system. So beginning to live from the inside out as opposed to living from the outside in.
I love that.
So that was definitely Dr. Karen for me. And that's why I do believe you remember your divinity as you heal. And for some people, physically is the initial, because they are so sick.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's our inspiration sometimes, myself included.
Yeah.
Yeah, if my body didn't fall apart, I'd be like, yeah, I'm too busy for that stuff.
Yeah.
Repress it,
Yeah.
repress it, repress it, repress it
Okay.
until the body goes, yeah, I can't do it anymore.
Well, yeah, it was actually, like, as we know, right? The fact that it hits your physical, it's already been through your dimensional, your spiritual, your emotional, your mental bodies.
Yeah.
You weren't listening, or were too
Nope.
busy, or didn't
Too
recognize it,
busy,
or
not
thought,
listening.
yeah, or didn't actually even connect the dots, right? So then it hits your physical. Now you have to deal with it. And what I find is, as you cleanse, and as you cleanse emotionally and physically, you are able to start joining the dots way before it hits your physical.
Yep.
So there's less physical illness. It's very empowering. It's super empowering. I think this whole journey, as you remember your divinity, is so very empowering.
That's what I love about it. And I remember in my acupuncture days, they were talking about how the energetic imbalances occurred probably even decades before there was a
Yes.
physical manifestation of that. And that's when people, I think it's funny because sometimes, I'll say to somebody, oh, your gallbladder energy is really low. And they're like, oh, no, 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 I have my gallbladder out. I'm like, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why you had to have it out, because you didn't heal or balance that gallbladder energy and the meridians and yada yada before the pathways before your body just went "Bleh," right. I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll go, I believe that past lifetime physical issues come through. So, often with the past life, there's a similar issue, similar physical issue is played up. And so it plays through the lifetimes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
So I mean, we, in Topican healing, there is something called the crystalline body blueprint, which is, long story short, is sort of a blueprint that can include a vulnerability,
Right,
but it's on purpose, so that we
right.
have a specific experience and that we either overcome. It's sort of like, Ram Dass, who, I'm not saying this is necessarily in his blueprint, but Ram Dass was like, hey, how can I be a better conduit for spirit, right? And then he gets a stroke. And he did his
Oh,
best work after that.
right.
So, sometimes we'll judge and say, oh, we should be perfectly radiantly healthy and happy at all times. And I'm like, well, sometimes we actually choose certain journeys so that,
100% agree.
yeah,
Yes, 100% agree. And overcoming that journey is the expansive experience, and working through that issue and living with that issue becomes a very expansive experience.
and that brings us back to our divinity, right? Like it's
Yes.
a circuitous route.
Yep. I would say, and at quite a deep level, I would say, and sometimes you're on a path and you think things are going well, and then something happens and there's another big event, and you go, "Oh, that doesn't make sense. Why did that happen, considering all the work I've done?" And I just feel like it's just taking you to a deeper place of your divinity.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. I think that's, I mean, that's always happening, but I think that it's really coming to a head. Like it's just being really, really obvious these days. And there's lots of sensitive souls in my community who have gone through a lot, gone through
Yeah.
a lot, been through many different, it could be many different healing modalities, many different healing journeys. And they're a little bit like aghast at there's still something, really? After all these decades, it's almost like a competition. It's like, I've been working on this for 30 years. I should be good by now, right? So,
Yeah,
so
I know
I love what you're saying. Can maybe you expand that more for those people?
yes, because I feel like for me it would be, when you level up, or when you have access to your divinity through an experience, and you awaken, and you have a remembering, I don't feel that that's the end of the road. So it depends on what your journey, what is your soul contract, what are you here to live through and live out this lifetime. And often it will require other events, and that will release deeper seated emotions and deeper seated trauma that then takes you even to a deeper level of your divinity. So it's not I don't think you're ever done, Dr. Karen. I don't think you're ever done. And also, I feel that sometimes as we heal and we have access to those deeper parts of us, then we have more capacity to go further
Mm.
and to heal even more deeply, right? So it's like, it might be, it's in stages. And
Oh,
I think if we believe we have got to where we need to be based on what we think we've done, I think we don't fully understand the greater purpose of everything. We often, we actually sometimes have no idea what's in store for us or what we're capable of. And I think our thinking and our ego can really limit us. And
yeah.
so then you think you've done enough, but actually there's so much more to you that needs to be brought forward. And unfortunately, those type of situations or events or whatever you have to go through is what brings it forward.
Yep.
Because again, it's that stronger message saying you need to, there's more expansion available for you.
Yeah, I love that perspective. As I noticed that, there's by and large, a huge percentage of people in my sense of soul community who have seemingly a high degree of spiritual responsibility, for lack of a better term, meaning that they've done easy in other timelines, and
Yes,
they've
yes,
chosen some very, very intense challenges. And when we do the soul typing, we test who they are, and that kind of thing, that can be helpful for the context of, oh, I'm not bad, I'm not inept, I'm not these things. um it's a that my capability are such that I asked in my soul journey for this other challenge so I could grow, and putting it in that perspective, that in and of itself is very helpful. But I noticed that for a lot of highly sensitive souls who are in that camp, that there is a very little leeway when it comes to being and pretending we are victims. It doesn't seem to work.
no, no. You said a really beautiful thing there. I think when you understand it as your soul contract, then you realize there's a higher purpose for it all, and there's meaning behind it. It's not something that's happening that's not meaningful or frivolous. There's a reason for it, and there's a really beautiful, deeper meaning for it. But again, I have found that when you're physically in it and it's tough, you sometimes can't connect to that. You
Yeah.
can't connect to that higher purpose or that soul contract, bird's eye viewpoint of it all. It's just too difficult.
hmm Yeah, it is when, and I get into, and thankfully, for the compassion piece, when people have gone through, especially a chronic physical experience, they can really connect and empathize, with others going through that, like yourself, like others going
Yes,
through
yes,
these
yes.
things. Sometimes we can get, and this is kind of old school, but sometimes we can get the message from some teachers, well-meaning coaches and teachers,
Yes, yes.
that are like, hey, I'm perfectly healthy and I've always been perfectly healthy. And,
Oh,
you got to change your thoughts and you got to change your perspective. And I mean, if you have never really been sick before, it's hard hearing that from someone Like, I mean, who's someone who has never been sick, right? Like they don't get it, but at the same time, I get what they're saying. Like, stop being a victim. Like, stop pretending that you're a victim. You can get empowered. So it's just challenging.
It's very challenging. And you know what, Dr. Karen, what I have found, okay, in my experience, and this is a big part of my message, is that, and this is at no disrespect to somebody who's going through something, but it's about taking ownership and having self-responsibility. And I think when you shift your focus to why is it being done to me, to,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I'm going through, what am I going to do about it? And it's my responsibility to sort it out.
Yeah.
There's an activation of healing that takes place, I believe, at an energetic level. So when you stop, the doctors, the naturopaths, the kinesiologists, the beautiful people that help you, they are consultants to you. So many people hand their health over to
Yep.
other people. And for me, it's a big thing. They are consultants to you. You are in the driver's seat and it's your body. And so take ownership. And that can be tough to do that. And have self-responsibility around that, because I definitely found that when I did that, and my husband did that, when we shifted that energetically, things came in, and I didn't understand it at the time, but solutions came in.
Yep. That's so
You
true.
stepped forward, and so the universe stepped forward.
Oh,
But
beautiful.
stepping forward, you can't step forward as a victim.
Yep.
It's that ownership piece that is very, very important in healing.
Mm.
And that's a big message of mine for people, especially with severe, chronic, long-term issues where there's a lot of exhaustion. That's quite a difficult, the victim comes in quite a bit because it's been
Yes.
ongoing, and like there's no solutions. And so I've been around and around, and I'm actually worse off than I was before
Yep. I've
because
spent
I've
ten
done.
thousand dollars on healers
Yes,
or the
yes,
naturopath
yes,
or the chiropractor. I don't feel any better.
yes. And so another big message that I always told myself was, I'm never off path. Wherever I am, I'm there to be learning the lessons that I need to learn. That things happen for a good reason, not just a reason. So it's about what is the good in that? What is the lesson? What is the silver lining? Where do I go
Mhm.
with that?
Yeah.
And
Instead of
looking
things
back
happening to me, things are happening for me.
for me,
Yeah.
and looking back on my health journey and my husband's health journey, that was tough. Like it was hectic, but I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't feel how I feel now in terms of I wouldn't have expanded to where I am now without that. And I wouldn't have been able to help the people that I've helped if I hadn't had that journey. So there's always a good reason. I always think that you can find some sort of good reason. And I know that that's a really difficult thing, and there's some very terrible situations that people go through and they go, well, that's very nice. Just say, don't, there's no good reason. But at a higher energetic level, there is a reason for it, that there is some good in it, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing is like, we can believe whatever we choose to believe. So we can believe in something that serves us or something that doesn't serve us. So generally speaking, I find that it serves me to believe that whatever happens, happens for a reason. That reason's there to serve me and whoever else is coming along. So as my brain goes, wait, you don't like this situation, but you're saying it's for the highest good? All right, let me figure that one out. How is it for the highest good? How is it for the highest good? And the funny thing is, you give the mind a job like that to do, instead of why me, and the mind goes, I'll tell you why you, because you're an idiot, because you're blah, 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 right? But if you tell the job, the mind go, well, it's going to serve me. And it goes, really? Okay, let me figure this out. And it starts figuring out ways that it serves you.
Yeah.
It's just so
So
funny.
very much so, like, why me? Well, there's a lesson to be learned, and what is
Yeah.
that lesson? And often we learn that lesson so that we're able to help other people. That
Yes.
often the biggest lessons in our life are there to help us serve others.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, Kim, with a lot of our sensitive souls, they often will sacrifice their health and well-being because
Yes.
they think they have to help others. Because we keep getting from the spiritual books, spiritual teachers, help others, help others, help others, and then they'll sacrifice their health to help others, because that's how they think that they're supposed to help others. Mm.
And that's that self-love piece. I mean, for me, self-love is that is the priority. That self-love, deep care for yourself. And that's part of that, falling in love with your body, just learning how to love yourself to the point where you put yourself first. And as you do that, you realize that as you do, you're then able to serve others in a way deeper capacity. You bring way more to the table.
Yes.
It's just so much more beautiful for everybody involved. Um, and again, I also think sometimes that it's an easy way out not to look after yourself. It's that
Yes, I
taking
was just gonna
ownership
say that.
piece. That taking ownership piece, right?
Yes.
It's your body, and it's the only place for your soul. So like for me, that is having a home that is fully beautifully functioning for as long as possible so that I can have an experience on this planet, for me, is the ultimate,
Mm,
you know
yeah.
and
Yeah,
honoring that, Dr. Can.
it's it's difficult to imagine that people, you know, um, don't really want to be here.
Yes. And
Yeah,
at the
because it's
same time,
painful.
having empathy for that, right?
Yeah.
Because to be in that space where you feel like that, I have deep empathy and compassion for people. So, you know, to even begin to feel like that, really, I struggle. I just have so much compassion for people like that. So it's a fine balance.
Yes.
Um, yeah, because
Mm.
there are a lot of people who are really struggling.
Well, they
And
they say is pain is inevitable, struggle is optional. I was like, what?
yeah,
But I kind of
yeah,
get that now,
yeah,
based on our perceptions. Now, you
yeah.
mentioned to me at some point, and I know we're kind of bouncing off something completely seemingly different, but
Okay.
um, something about dragons. So I'm kind of into dragons right now. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you mentioned dragons.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to. No, I this whole, as you know, this activated journey that we've been on, that really helps you step more into the multidimensional version of you, has really set off a chain of events. One of them being me being able to meet some of my dragons that are here to help me. And
Mm,
so, can I talk a little bit about the very first dragon that came in?
sure, that sounds
Okay.
exciting.
His name is Dex, and he apparently, because I've had channeled sessions about this, was sent to me to help me be a bit more carefree, and because of the work that I do and the people that I work with, it can be quite challenging to work with chronically ill people, and to help them. And so he has been, firstly, he helps me within my healings. So he's now showing up and we're doing all sorts of things together, and he's very funny. He makes me laugh. He keeps me lighthearted, which is his purpose. Um, and he definitely brings in an energy that helps me cope and help heal people even in a more deeper way.
Mm,
So he's available. I've also got some dragons that help me, that come in when I do entity removals and I do house clearings. So I've got some very beautiful, powerful dragons that come in to help with that. And it just keeps growing. They just, as I evolve and as different things come up and as I'm presented with different people coming to me, or me getting involved in healings, the toolkit keeps growing. And they are the most loving, kind, funny, funny. They have got such senses of humor and personality. Really wanting, they hold so much love and want to serve. They're really, really, and so powerful, Dr. Karen, so powerful.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, I'm sure someone's going to ask, I'm going to ask, is like, do you ever work with people to connect them to their dragons?
I don't, but I know of somebody who does. So that's definitely an option, yes. So there's definitely an option for somebody to contact me, and I can put them in touch with somebody who does put them in touch with the person who helped me activate mine. No problem. No
That's
problem at
neat.
all.
Well, it's
No
neat that
problem.
in your healing sessions, you are, the dragons are there, right? They're assisting
Yeah,
and supporting. It's beautiful.
they come in and they either, well, it's Dex primarily who's with me in the actual healings, but if there's any negative energy, then I've got a couple of other ones that show up. But with Dex, he will blow his beautiful breath through all sorts of things, clearing. He will just, sometimes he blows fire. If something really needs to be purified and cleansed, he blows fire. He gives me guidance. He makes me laugh, which really lightens me up, and I feel that activates me. So yes, he's really, and it's interesting, he came through, when he first came through, he's burnt orange, number one. He's huge, and he has a waddle. So he's, and I laugh, I call him Sexy Dex because he thinks he's sexy, but he walks gub gub, and his little tummy moves from side to side, and he looks a bit like Puff the Magic Dragon, and that's how he came through initially. And then I remember dealing with somebody in a session, and there was an entity that came in, or there was something happening, and all of a sudden he shapeshifted and stood behind me, and his wings went right out. He became very regal, fire-blowing dragon. So they shapeshift and they really transform in terms of what they need to help you with, So yeah,
That's super cool.
yeah, lots of beautiful experiences with dragons,
Oh, that's great.
Dr.
Well,
Karen.
Kim,
They're
where can
very
people
powerful.
find you?
Okay, my website, 𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗞𝗦.com.au. If you wouldn't mind connecting with me there, that would be great.
That's perfect. And so what is it like when if somebody wants to work with you, what's the process?
Okay, the process is that I like to connect with that person, and I like to set up a conversation with that person to find out what it is that they want me to help them with. And then based on that initial assessment, which is at no cost, I will then just make suggestions around what is available and what I could help them with from a physical perspective and from an emotional or energetic perspective.
Nice, nice. So
And
it
so there are
sounds like you're
packages,
combining
the
all the
two.
knowledge.
It is, yes, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a combination. And in terms of house clearings and helping people heal their homes and their environments, I do that because I am EMF sensitive, so I've harmonized my home and my environment, and so I help people with that. But also now energetically clearing homes, removing entities, all sorts of things that energetically impact a home, from portals to ley lines to all of that. So, because I have found that healing people is one thing, but when you're sending them back into an environment that does not support their healing, there's an issue. And
Absolutely.
that is becoming more prevalent with us expanding and having more of that energy coming through. And as much of light's coming through, there's a lot of negative stuff coming through. And I just feel there's a whole lot of negativity in people's environments that have been amplified that are really impacting them from a healing perspective. So I've been working on that.
Very
Yes.
cool. So if someone was EMF sensitive and wanted both the energetic clearing and any advice as to how to set up their home, is that something you could do?
Absolutely. Yes. So please just reach out to me through my website. I would definitely be able to help with that and make suggestions. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So kimparker.com.au. So that's KIMPARKER, just like it sounds, .com.au. So you can check the website and connect with Kim if it feels like a resonance. And Kim, do you have any kind of last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our community?
Um, yes, I would just like to say that, and I've said it before, but your body is a really beautiful vessel, and the rewards will be great if you take ownership and have self-responsibility around your health, from a physical or an energetic perspective. And in doing so, your consciousness expands. You really have an opportunity to learn more about who you are, why you're here, and what your purpose is. And in remembering that divinity, the healing that takes place as a result of that in itself is a really beautiful thing. So it's all very worthwhile and worth soldiering on for if you're struggling. And I think that would be my message, Dr. Can.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Kim, for spending
You're
your
welcome, and I
beautiful
really
energy and
appreciated having
time with
this.
us.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really loved being with you.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks to your dragons as well. We love
Oh,
dragons.
thank you.
Oh my goodness. And
Thank
we want to
you.
thank you all the listeners and viewers as well for spending your time with us and Light Warrior Radio. So until next time, lots of love, everyone. All right. Bye for now. See you next time.